Well, it's a very special episode of the Packers Roundtable podcast, otherwise known as WTF Packers. Anthony, my steady co-host, is here, but rage filled and maybe slightly aggravated and pissed off Evan Massey. He's decided to join us because he's got a lot to say. The Packers tied the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. They're now 2-1-1. That's going to be a main big topic for us. But first of all, guys, how you doing? Let's start with you, Evan.
Doing well, man. Doing as well as can be expected after yesterday. But, my mama used to tell me, don't say anything if you can't say something good. So, I'll do my best to follow that rule.
Yep. And how about you, Mr. Browns?
Boys, I am excited to be on and to hear the raw feelings that you guys have from this one, because from an outsider's perspective, being one step away, that game was electric, and back and forth, a lot of good, a lot of bad from both teams. But just from a pure entertainment perspective, it was hard to beat what we saw late last night and into the at least where I'm at, into the early morning here in the East Coast.
Yeah, that was, objectively, it was a good football game. 40-40 overtime, Sunday Night Football, two of the biggest brands in the NFL, two of the biggest brands in sports. I can understand that. At the same time, just so frustrating as a fan, as somebody who watches, the team in the green and gold, and we want them to win. And this feels – a tie feels almost worse than a loss in a way, because you go through so much, and and we'll get into the Matt LaFleur and kind of playing for a tie and all of that, but I think I want to start with this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Evan, we'll start with you. Ties in the NFL. This is the professional freaking football league, man. These guys get paid millions of dollars. There's millions of dollars on the line. What are we doing playing for ties still? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I don't understand how college doesn't play for ties, but the NFL does. That doesn't make sense to me. I agree with you. It's frustrating. Fans don't like it. That should change. Point blank simple, that should change.
Yeah.
Do you like Ev? Do you like the college format? Because I know some, maybe not so much that when they get into the 2 points, the 2 point thing, I don't like that at all. But the college format of starting at the 25-yard line and basically just like let it rip, and like you get one positive result of that. You think back to the A&M LSU game from years ago, and it was 70-68 or something like that. Would that be an option you'd like to see in the NFL?
I think something similar to that. I think maybe you back that up to the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
But I would love to see college rules in the NFL. I think that would make it so much more entertaining. Fans would be all about it. It works well for college. I don't love the 2 point conversion stuff either, but kind of go back to that old school, like whoever scores touchdowns the longest wins.
Well, and that's the point, right? Like you're playing football. Like that's the whole thing. And with the 10-minute quarter, like we saw last night was a perfect example. 2 drives. There was only 2 drives. They both took 5 minutes, or maybe less than 5 minutes or whatever. But like, you just run out of time. Like 10 minutes certainly isn't enough. And I agree. I hate the tie thing because it's like kissing your sister, right? Like it's nobody wins. Nobody wins in this one.
That's gonna stick with me. Kissing your sister. I like that. Not the actual act, but I like the thought. So like I mentioned here at the start, the Packers are 2-1-1. I had said it all week over on Packers Roundtable, whether it was in something in writing or in a community post. In my world in the NFL, there's a big difference between 3-1 and 2-2. So, to me, it was important for the Packers to come out and get a win. Even though we're still a quarter way through the season, it's not even October yet. There's a lot of football to be played. What I did not anticipate 2-1-1. And again, like I mentioned, it kind of feels like a loss. Evan, take me through your thoughts, man. To me, this was a huge spot, and to come away with a tie, like I said, it feels worse than a loss to me.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think, especially looking back to week 3, when you lose to the Browns, I think, after the hype of the first 2 weeks, everybody's saying Green Bay, Super Bowl, elite contender, all those things. I mean, even Packers players were starting to talk about undefeated. When you drop a game to the Browns, you expect that team, if they're a contender, to step back up the next week. And then you look at the opponent. Dallas has been shredded defensively by New York, by Chicago, and Chicago manhandled them. You know, I think as Packers fans, we're sitting here thinking, okay, this is our bounce back game. And instead you get, in my opinion, an equal disappointment to the Cleveland game. That's the way I view it. You know, I agree with you. It feels like a loss. You know, ties don't do anything for you. In fact, they can really hurt you at the end of the season. There's nothing really positive to take away outside of the fact that, to me, I mean, the offense played great for the most of the game, but man, that defense was horrible. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, it's a bad feeling because not only did you tie a game, but you did that coming off one of the worst losses that I've seen the Packers have in years. And you just didn't see that fire or a team that was, you know, ready to prove that they were a Super Bowl contender. It makes you feel like they're talking the talk, but they can't walk the walk.
Yeah.
And I would add too, just real quick, like the way it happened too, like if the Packers were down big and they fought back and tied it, that's one thing. I mean, the blocked extra point that got returned for 2 points, and then the missed 2-point conversion, right? That's 5 points right there that you leave off the board. And then the way that it just ended in general, like just tackle George Pickens in bounds on that last out route, and the game's like almost over. If you just make one more play in bounds, it's kind of over. And it's just the way that it happened. It makes it feel so much more like a tie that the Packers lost, and also a tie that the Cowboys won because they did chase it down. They did have the crazy plays at the end that all caused, that all ended everything knotted up. I mean, that's the other part of it too, where the way it went down, and you waste an awesome offensive performance. Ev, you touched on it. Like, they were rolling on offense, and Josh Jacobs showed that he's an elite dude on this team. Romeo Doubs was fantastic. I thought Jordan Love was really good too, and you just waste that in a game that you're in a 2-week stretch, really, that you're going to look back and want to have back again.
Absolutely. One of the things that I wrote right after the game was, like you mentioned, these performances from a guy like Jordan Love, who threw for 337 and 3 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs had well over 100 total yards, a couple touchdowns on the ground. That's all for naught, because what we're talking about is a tie. And I think that takes me to point number 2 here. Moeglin, what you were just talking about, we talked about after the Browns game. There was a lack of focus, a lack of discipline, and a lack of just making the smart play. We talked about it on that Jordan Love interception against the Browns, where had they even punted on 3rd down, they'd probably win that game. And to me, talk about that play. Talk about the blocked extra points, the blocked field goal against the Browns, false starts left and right. The lack of urgency at the end of that game, especially in overtime, to me, that's all coaching. And I think we have to have a conversation about Matt LaFleur. Anthony, I'd like to start with you, and then I know Evan's got a lot of thoughts there, so we'll give him the floor.
I'll tee Evan up here because I watch bad football all the time, right? That's just kind of where live in Ohio. You watch bad football. You get reprieve on Saturdays watching the Buckeyes, but then you cut on a Sunday, and you just consistently watch bad football for 28 straight years. So I know what bad teams do, and the Packers are funny because they don't they come out and they score 40 points and they do great things, and they have good players and consistently have been one of the better teams in all of the NFL. But those, an old coach of mine used to say, success has clues. Well, so does failure. Failure has clues too. And some of the things that they do, right? The blocked extra point, the blocked field goal against the Browns, Jordan Love forcing a ball against the Browns 2 weeks ago that ended in an interception. All of the things, the not getting the 2-point conversion, the slow pace on the 2-minute drill, like all of those things do point back to coaching. And, you can be a good coach for 58 minutes. But if you screw up in the final 2, you are what your record says you are. And that's the thing it comes back to. It's like they're not like a horribly coached team, but situationally they're proving now 2 weeks in a row that they're going to leave some things they're going to leave some plays out there. And when you do that in the NFL, you get beat or you get chased down. And you've seen that now back-to-back weeks from this team.
I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, man. I mean, truthfully, I don't think anybody's going to say that Matt LaFleur is a horrible head coach. Where he seems to fail in my opinion, is when the game gets close or when the game gets late. You know, there's something Aaron Rodgers said jokingly but serious a couple times. Matt LaFleur panics. He's the master of panic. You see it. They have a 10-point lead, and all of a sudden we're just running the football and giving up, we're giving punts back to the other team, whoever the opponent is. I mean, this past week, actually the last 2 weeks now, we've had 2 admitted blunders from him himself in his post-game pressers. I mean, against the Browns, it was, I underestimated their defensive line. Well, I mean, the Browns have the best defensive line in football, arguably. How do you underestimate that? That doesn't make sense to me. And then this past week after the Cowboys game, what does he come out and say? He says, I'm not sure if our guys knew they were in a 2-minute drill. Well, my question about that is, number one, you have a direct line of communication to the quarterback. How would he not know that? That's on you. The second part of that, quite frankly, is what do you do in practice? I mean, that's an obvious. I mean, I was sitting there yelling at my TV the entire last 3 minutes of the game. Go. You can't get seconds back. And when you run out of timeouts, you can't stop the clock quickly. And, quite frankly, I mean, I don't know what you guys thought. I was watching that, and that last second probably should have ticked off. So, I mean, we got lucky that we tied. But truthfully, what I've seen time and time again, year after year, is a Packers team that really should be a Super Bowl contender. But what happens when either A, they play a really bad team, they play down to that competition, or B, when they play a really good team, they play scared and the game plan completely changes from what gets Green Bay to the playoffs. I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. Matt LaFleur is a great dude. He's a really good coach. But, man, I don't understand how that, I guess some guys have that clutch gene and some guys have that aggressiveness. I think Matt LaFleur needs to go learn from Dan Campbell just a little bit. But, man, we change our gameplay late in games almost every week, and I think fans are getting really, really frustrated with it.
You two were. Here's a question for both of you. You guys were pretty locked in. I mean, Ben, you're Packers, Ben Packers fans. Did Rodgers in the couple? Was it 2 years he had with LaFleur, or was it just one? Was it 3, or was it more than that?
It was 2 or 3 years.
Two?
I think it's 3.
Did he mask a lot of that stuff? Because I know that was LaFleur's first and second year. Like, obviously he's still learning it, but with Jordan Love, they almost feel like they kind of came in together. Did Rodgers put like a Band-Aid over a lot of that? Because, hey, when Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, everyone's going to know it's a 2-minute drill, or everyone's going to know what to do, and all that stuff. Did that factor in, you think, back when he was a Packer?
Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think part of that is when LaFleur came in, he made a couple comments that he was going to lean heavily on Aaron to kind of help him. Aaron is one of those guys, and you see it in Pittsburgh a little bit. He's given the freedom to run that offense. He's earned that. I mean, he's done it the last 12 years, maybe 14. I think he masked some of it. I think he certainly took, he would joke and talk all the time about how he would tell Matt LaFleur to relax. He would calm LaFleur down during a game. And quite frankly, I didn't like hearing that at the time because my quarterback shouldn't be relaxing my head coach. That's what I have to say about it. But yes, you're probably absolutely right that Aaron Rodgers masked a lot of these problems.
So let's take a quick look at just kind of the big picture with LaFleur. He's coached 104 games now for the Packers. So there's a large sample size, and we're not looking at the playoffs, just regular season. 104 games. He's 69, 34, and now 1 tie. So he's got a 668 win-loss percentage. I mean, there are franchises out there, and Anthony, tell me if I'm correct, but that would kill for that kind of win.
Anything. Name your price, I'd do it.
So, on one hand, you can say, okay, and Evan, you wrote about this on Packers Roundtable that it's time for the Packers to move on from Matt. So on one hand, you can say that because there's frustration, and we see how we see kind of what the ceiling is with him. At the same time, that ceiling's a lot better than some floors out there. So how do if you're Ed Policy, who's now in charge of the Packers, you and Brian Gutekunst, how do you walk that tightrope between, okay, this guy's good, but he's not good enough to get us over the hump, and then we take the risk of going out there with somebody who might be worse.
I mean, it's definitely a risk. First of all, kind of backing up again, I want to make it very clear: Matt LaFleur is a good head coach. For especially the first couple years with Love, being able to develop him, run that offense with him. But the problem becomes when you get to this level, you take the big swing on a trade for Micah Parsons, you are going all in. And if your head coach is the one that's holding you back, unfortunately, you may have to make a tough decision. I think that's why Ed Policy would not commit to Matt LaFleur before the start of the season. With the kind of success he's had, most GMs and presidents would probably be like, yeah, we want to keep that guy around. I think it's very telling that hasn't been the case for Matt LaFleur. And the second part of it is, yeah, you're taking a risk to go out and try to find somebody better than Matt LaFleur. However, what you have to offer in Green Bay right now is going to attract the biggest names available. And so I think, if you're kind of in a middle of the pack contender, it might be a little more risky than it is right now, because the Packers would have a lot of coaches and good coaches just hammering on their door wanting to come coach this team. Now, I'm not saying that, they have to fire LaFleur, but I think if they want to truly go all in for a Super Bowl, if that's what they're doing here, I think we've seen enough, that Matt LaFleur probably isn't that guy, and I really hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah, I do want to make one more point here, and Anthony, I want to pull you into this kind of with my question. Talking about LaFleur, the one deficiency I've seen from him, and there are a couple, but the guy can draw up a script. Those first 2-3 series, the Packers always come out banging, and the guy knows how to draw up a script, but it seems like when he gets punched in the mouth, and Evan alluded to that, when there's adversity, he seems to panic a little bit, and the offense, what worked, stops working because, the defense adjusts, and then all of a sudden we're off to the races, and you see what happens like it did against the Cowboys. So, as a former quarterback yourself, what's talking about a tightrope and a balance, what's the balance between, hey, this is our script and we're going to follow it, and hey, the defense has adjusted, so now it's time we need to make an adjustment too.
Yeah. I love the point there that you make, because that script, and when people say, when you hear that on the broadcast, like, what is that script? Typically coaches and teams will have, I had 15, the first 15 plays, some will do 12. NFL, maybe you'll do 8 to 10 of your first plays. And when I'm telling you, this is determined on like Friday of the week. They script it out. The quarterback has them. The quarterback studies them. They're in their hotel room drawing them up. They know exactly what they're going to get, because, hey, when you study film all week and that, hey, when we come out with 3 receivers to the left side and 1 tight end attached to the right and the running backs on the left, Jordan, you're going to get cover 3. Or, hey, when we go 2x2, you're going to get a quarters coverage. They know exactly what it's going to be. And Andrew, you say a point like, hey, when he gets punched in the mouth, right? I even think it's less than that. If once a defense makes just one slight adjustment, one slight change, hey, against 2x2, we're going to go from a 2-high shell to, hey, let's roll to 1 and just change something up against the quarterback. That tells me that, hey, you have to be able to adjust. And you see it all around. Like, no offense is going to be perfect. Some days you'll get hot and you'll win a lot. But that becomes that chess match. And the great coaches get themselves out of it. They get their offense out of it. Their quarterback is prepared for, hey, when he sees pre-snap too high and he snaps it and it rolls 1, he thought he had a shot up on the left. No, he's got to come check it down on the right. That's the good quarter, and that's the good coaching that comes along with it. So getting off that script, I think, is a really good point by you and really good observation. Like, the good teams, the good coaches get into the second quarter, get into the third quarter, and they're still moving the ball and finding points. And the bad teams, get stuck. They get stuck in mud. The better example was the Browns game, when they just couldn't get things going. And it felt like they made some good adjustments here, took advantage of that Dallas that Dallas defense. But I think it's a really astute point you make of, hey, watching this offense go from that end of the first quarter into the second quarter, are they able to adjust or not? And that is a telltale sign of a well-coached football team and a well-coached quarterback, if you will.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see. The Packers have a bye week this week, so talk about adjustments. That's a place where you want to adjust, and we'll get to that here at the end. I do want to talk about Jordan Love with our former quarterback here, and of course, Evan, you made some interesting comments, I think, last night about Love, and I'd love to hear your thoughts there. He, like I mentioned, he completed 31 of 43, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He technically did throw a pick, but that was on a free play, so we'll give him a pass on that. I thought it was just a wonderful game from Love. It's probably the best I've seen him, at least since the end of that 2023 season when he was on fire there. Evan, what you said, and I thought it was so interesting, is that he seems to have all the the physical tools. You know, an elite athlete, great arm. I mean, and Anthony, we've talked about this too. It just seems like he's you know, once or twice a game, he does something that's so boneheaded. And what you said, Evan, is that, you know, from the neck up, he just doesn't seem to have it. I'd love for you to expand a little bit on that for us.
Sure. I mean, he is one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL where in the same game, he will make you think he could be the best quarterback in the NFL, and then he'll throw the worst interception or the worst throw you've ever seen in your life. You know, when I say from the shoulders up, he doesn't seem to have it, I don't mean that in a way of like, he's not smart or he doesn't see the game well. What I mean was shown at the end of the game to me where, you know, we're in overtime, clock's ticking down, and he's walking over to the sideline calling a timeout, and they don't have any. You know, the best quarterbacks, when I think of Tom Brady, I can think of one time in his career that he made a mistake like that. It was when he was in Tampa Bay and he thought it was third down and he thought he had fourth down coming, and it wasn't. Everybody's seen that viral, you know, GIF. But for Jordan, it's those brain farts. It's those moments that you're just like, what are you doing? You know, and he has every game. You know, it's not necessarily the whole game. It's certainly not the whole game, and it's not necessarily at the end of games, but he has one or two moments like that almost every week. And that's really concerning to me. And yeah, he's young, but I mean, he's in his third year starting now. It's not like he's a first year starter, and he had time sitting behind Aaron Rodgers to start his career. So he wasn't like any other young quarterback who had never started before. You know, I think he certainly has the potential to be a top 5 NFL quarterback. And I loved how he played, you know, against the Cowboys. But, you know, I guess it's the critic in me that's seeing that mistake at the end of the game, thinking you have a timeout and almost losing the game because of that mistake, thinking you did have one. I mean, that stuff, you know, especially come playoff time, you can't have those errors if you're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Anthony?
Yeah, no, it's right. And it goes back to the thing I said about situational football. Like, how prepared are you? And it's funny, I don't mean to bring up Aaron Rodgers again, but like, you watched that game in London or in Dublin yesterday on Sunday morning, and it's 4th and inches from inside the 1 yard line. And Mike Tomlin's trying to run his field goal team out. And Rodgers is literally like, get off the field, because he knows situationally that the Vikings don't have enough time to you know, score twice. Obviously, they have the big play and all that stuff, but he's like, situationally, I know exactly what this team needs to do, because he's prepared. He's been there. He's done that. And if you make a good point, like, yes, Jordan's been starting now for 3 years, but he spent 4 years behind Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, okay, or 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, where that's a wealth of knowledge. And I know their relationships, there's, you know, stories about it going a number of different ways, but like, I'm putting myself in those shoes. If I'm sitting in the same meeting room as Aaron Rodgers, I am writing everything down. I am committing everything to memory. Situationally, everything is going to memory, because that's one of the greats you're ever going to play the game. If I want to emulate that, I want to be that. Like, you can't, like, the timeout thing is one that I played Division III football. I knew how many timeouts I had every single time I walked on the field, you know, and those are the things that just should always be in a quarterback's brain. And when those things pop up, Ev, you make a good point. You know, those are the things that are kind of like inexcusable in a lot of ways.
Shout out John Carroll, just while we're at it. Shout out. Now, real quick, I do want to say, I do think Love, you know, he's healthy. We've seen the athleticism. We've seen the running definitely take off in the past 2 weeks, and there's still a lot of football to be played. This guy could still, you know, end up having an MVP-esque season. Go ahead, Anthony.
Question from an outsider's perspective. The Packers skill position group is it's a funny thing to watch. It's a fascinating thing to watch for me, because it doesn't feel like they got dudes, and then they go out and, you know, Romeo Doubs goes for 3 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft is like a total. He is in the tier of Kelsey and Kittle and those guys. Like, he is one of those dudes. And obviously Josh Jacobs is one of the best running backs in football. What are your guys' perspective? And obviously Christian Watson's not in it, but you got Wicks and all these guys feel like second tier guys, but when they play well, they always pop off and look really good. What's the Packers' perspective on the skill group?
Go ahead, Evan.
Well, I mean, truthfully, I'm going to point out one other player who is missing right now, Jaden Reed. I actually think he's probably the Packers' best wide receiver, outside of maybe Dobbs. I think Dobbs might be their number 1, but him and Reed are 1 and 2 right there. You know, I think it's interesting. First of all, I was just having a chat with a buddy of mine today about how interesting it would have been to have Aaron Rodgers playing with this group. I have to point that out. He was known for spreading the ball around really, really well. And, man, it would have been fun watching him do this. But, I mean, I guess for me, I will say this is the deepest offense outside of, like, going back 10 to 15 years that Green Bay's had. I will say I am a little concerned about Josh Jacobs, just a little bit. You know, last night was the first time I've really seen him start breaking off those big runs like we were used to last year. And it kind of brought back some bad memories of the every other year curse that he's had throughout his career. But, you know, truthfully, I mean, this entire offense is just loaded with talent, and Jordan Love's part of that. He is certainly making these guys look really good, and that's a credit to him. But, man, you know, I'm really curious in 3 to 4 years, you know, assuming that they can keep a decent chunk of these guys together. Obviously, Watson was extended for another year. Dobbs will be a free agent after this season. But Matthew Golden's a guy that I think has a very, very bright future ahead of him. We haven't seen a whole lot of him yet, but, man, I really like him. Wicks is a very interesting player. I love him. He's got some drop habits that he needs to work on. This year he's been a lot better. Tucker Kraft, though, absolute monster. And actually, Luke Musgrave, I think, is going to be somebody as the season progresses here that might be a very big X factor for this offense. But, man, it's fun to watch him. I love the depth we have. I am very curious to see how they operate moving forward and how they keep these guys or who they have to move on from.
Talking about Matthew Golden, he had 5 receptions for 58 yards, averaged 11.6 yards a catch, and the biggest one was that 4th down catch, and he showed off his good hands there. He's yet to find the end zone. I think that's probably coming. I bet it's going to come against the Bengals after the bye. I could definitely see LaFleur drawing something up for him. Let's switch sides of the ball because this was really the shocker of the game for me. It was a 40-40 tie, and the defense gave up all but 2 of those points. Special teams is attributed to the 2 there, but basically 38 points given up by a defense that we thought was legitimate heading into this game. Still very well may be. Evan, just give me your general thoughts on, like, what the heck happened there, man? Because that you know, from week 1 and week 2 to what we saw in Cleveland, they played pretty damn well in Cleveland. And then, I mean, I know Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, but to give up, you know, that many points, that is insane.
I mean, truthfully, it comes down to one thing: pass rush. If you look at the Packers secondary, obviously you've got 2 good safeties. You know, I'm not taking anything away from Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams. However, when you go to that cornerback position, there's a big, big weakness. They didn't address it after letting Jair Alexander go. And truthfully, I mean, you had to do that. He's not playing much with the Ravens anyway. I think he played in week 1. I don't know if he played this past week, but his knee is in big trouble. But when the pass rush gets to opposing quarterbacks, it takes the pressure off of that secondary. They can make plays because the pass is coming out so early that receivers can't break out of their routes in time. However, when you can stop an elite pass rush that relies solely on the pass rush for its success, which the Packers do, and I'll tell you a quick fix for it after I say this. But anyway, when you can stop that pass rush and the routes can actually progress, you start seeing the holes in that secondary. And quite frankly, that is what happened in this game. I mean, yes, Micah Parsons got to Dak Prescott late in the game there. He saved the game, let's be real. But before that, I mean, they could not put consistent pressure on Prescott. When they did get to him, he'd already been back there bouncing around in the pocket for 5 seconds. I mean, it's too long. This secondary cannot do that. We do not have a top coverage guy. You know, Keyshawn Nixon had 5 defended passes a couple weeks ago. You want to know why that was? Those balls were coming out really, really fast, and he was still right there with the receiver. When the pass rush is good, this defense is going to be elite. But when the pass rush can't get to the quarterback, we're going to be in trouble. And I'll tell you, 2 guys that we could look at. I mean, I would love to see this team. I'd love to see Brian Gutekunst go out and get either Stephon Gilmore or Asante Samuel Jr. Go out and bring a piece into this defense that can actually give you some man coverage or at least a little bit more talent in that secondary where you can come up and play man if your pass rush isn't performing at its highest level.
Anthony, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think that while all those things are true, I think last Sunday night you saw a Cowboys team that Dak Prescott's in like the Joe Burrow from last year where he knows he doesn't have a defense and he can just spin it, right? And there's like, hey, no one's going to blame, and not that they would, but no one's going to blame Dak for a loss when you give up 40 points. So I can just sit back there and go. And yes, all of those things are absolutely true, but you're playing against a quarterback who's got literally nothing to lose. And when you face that's also another layer of how challenging it is, because Dak can throw it. George Pickens, I've seen it for 4 straight years when he was in Pittsburgh. He makes the most circus-like catches you'll ever see, and then he'll drop the slant or the hitch. But yeah, I think that also factor that in too, because the Cowboys were playing with house money yesterday, and you saw that, and then that compounds everything, because once you do block everything up, Ev, you're dead right, and make sure guys cover. And covering George Pickens is a tall task for anybody, let alone maybe guys that maybe aren't on that same level as him.
I do think there's an element. I'm sorry, Evan. I think there's an element with this team right now where they've gotten caught up in their own hype now twice, once against the Browns, and I wonder if the specter of Micah Parsons going back to Dallas maybe put a little bit too much pressure on this defense, to where they were thinking too much about that, not just about going and playing football. And again, that comes back to coaching. We could just draw a full circle around that. Evan, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think the other part of it too is, missed tackles. This defense had not missed a lot of tackles leading into this game. I can't tell you the number of times I saw a defensive back come up to make a stop on a receiver and just slide past him, fall to the ground, trip, or just get steamrolled. In the run game, the defensive line, obviously Devontae Wyatt got hurt. That was another big reason for the run having such an impact. But, I think the missed tackling was another massive problem last night. And that's something that you can fix. We'll see what happens, but I still would like to see them go add to that secondary.
Let's go ahead to our last topic here, and we'll wrap up. Like I said, the Packers are going into a bye now, and we've talked about adjustments here for a while. If you're going to make a change, if you're going to bring in a player like Stephon Gilmore, Asante Samuel Jr., this is the time to do it. I'm going to start with you, Anthony, as an outside perspective, but you've now watched this team for 4 games. Start off looking like world beaters. These last 2 games have been disappointing, to say the least. What would you want to see if you were a Packers fan or in the organization? What do you want to see change here at the bye?
Yeah, 2 thoughts on this. The first is, situationally, you have to be better. We've talked about it all the way up to this point, but that's a critical thing. Not even an exaggeration at all. If they punt that ball on 3rd down against the Cleveland Browns instead of throwing it, they win that football game. If they run it, they win that football game. If he throws an incompletion, they win that football game. If he throws it out of the stadium and it hits my house, they win that football game. Those things, that's what happens. Instead, you do the one thing you can't, and that's what it comes down to be. You can't get the kick blocked. You can't do all of those things. Situationally, they have to be better. The second thing is that, as hard as it is, the NFL is a week-to-week league. They can't overreact. You're 2-2. This is a long season. You got all of your NFC North games outside of the one you had against the Lions. You have all of them left. Let's go. Stick with it. It's a long year. Don't overreact, and you're going to be fine. Get healthy in the bye week and come back ready to roll with the chip on your shoulder.
What about you, Evan? What do you think, man?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that they've got to get healthy on the offensive line. That offensive line is just ravaged with injuries. We've been missing Zach Tom. We've been missing Aaron Banks. Obviously, you can't protect Jordan Love and give him the time necessary if you're missing that much on your offensive line. It's been very obvious. He's been running for his life back there. And against the Browns, there was actually a viral video that was out there of Myles Garrett breaking through the line saying, "Jordan, run!" Come on. It's laughable. And, the guys that have filled in, like Jordan Morgan, he looked better against the Cowboys. But, man, he has not looked like a first-round pick here. We got to get healthy there. The second part of it, I do agree. We can't overreact to it. Certainly not calling for Matt LaFleur's job here in the middle of the season. But, for me, the other portion of this is stop talking and play. These guys got caught up in that first 2 weeks. I really do think you come out so hot because you get Micah right before the start of the season. You're brimming with confidence. You're pumped up. You're excited. And then the NFL season actually starts happening. And it's a long grind, and it's difficult. And it humbles you really, really fast if you get too ahead of yourself. And I think that team got too ahead of themselves. The second I started hearing Rasheed Walker talking about going undefeated, man, that to me was a massive concern. And what's even more concerning is that it's happening publicly, and that Matt LaFleur didn't come out and address it until after a loss. That truthfully, I mean, you can't have this. You cannot have guys going out publicly to the media and talking about going undefeated after 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. So reset your mind, get back to playing hard-nosed physical football, because quite frankly, they have not been playing physical football the last 2 weeks like they were in the first two. And quite frankly, you do that, and I think you'll be right back on track.
The good news is this team has the talent. They've got the talent on both sides of the football to be a Super Bowl contender. Now the question is, do they have it, as you've said, neck up? Can they put aside these distractions? Can they put aside 2 kind of rough weeks in a row and come out strong? And frankly, I think the Bengals are a little bit of a trap because Joe Burrow's not going to be playing, and what we've seen from this team consistently in the LaFleur era is that they can be had, if they're not focused. So the one thing I do want to mention when it comes to change, Anthony, I don't know if you remember Rich Bisaccia when he was over at the
I know Rich.
The Raiders. I can't believe that guy still has a job. He's a special teams coordinator. He should have been Lane Kiffin, man. He should have been on the tarmac in Dallas, and the fact that he's still on this team, to me, that's unacceptable.
He should have been on the tarmac in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this, going back to Matt LaFleur, he takes a lot longer than he probably should to make a change. He's too much about in the friendships business here. I think of Joe Barry. Joe Barry was around for far too long. Rich Bisaccia probably should have been gone after last year. We let this go into this season. It never should have happened. But he's not the kind of guy to make a change in the middle of the season. So get ready to deal with it for the next, 13 games now? 12 games? I don't even know. Whatever.
I've never been great at math.
Frustrating. Math isn't math, man.
I'll tell you what. Talking about friends, the NFL is not a place for friends. You got to go out and win ball games. With that said, I'm happy to have 2 friends with me talking about the Packers. And Evan, thank you for coming aboard. We'd love to have you back with us again. And Anthony, it's good to see you, not sporting full Browns gear this time around.
I was going to bring my helmet this week. Yeah. The whole thing. I
figured you'd come in with one of those one of those dog masks or something like that. So
now let's maybe make this a weekly appearance. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Well, for Evan, for Anthony, I'm Andrew Kulha, Packers Roundtable. Guys, thank you out there for watching, for listening, for reading our work, for talking to us on the community boards. We're excited to be part of this and grow something that you guys can all be a part of. So tell a friend about Packers Roundtable. We'd love if you come talk with us, and we'll talk to you guys. Maybe we should take a break over the bye week. We'll see, but we'll talk to everybody soon.